This is DRF Race of the Day. Hi, everybody. Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF Race of the Day for Friday, January the 8th. Race number 7 at Santa Anita. Let's throw up the field for this nice optional claiming race. We're going a mile on the turf, $62,500. The optional claiming price, non-winners of 2 other than the condition. You can download free formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Access them, handicap along with us. Mike, evenly matched group. 7-2 tepid morning line favorite for the One Frontier Market, dropping from a grade 1 in for a tag for the first time.
Yeah, he's off of a layoff here. A horse who's going to need some pace. I guess he could be favored in here, Dan. I don't know. I sort of agree with whoever made this morning line. It was a pretty tough race to sort out in that regard.
Also think it's a tough race to sort out from a pace standpoint. Timeform US will try to help us out here. They've got the 2 Murad Khan out there on the lead. I just think 5-star Lynch has to be hustled by Joel Rosario from post position 10. This horse has shown speed in the past. Murad Khan is not exactly a blazer. I would just substitute the 10 for the 2. I think 5-star Lynch is going to make the front.
Yeah, I mean, I won't disagree with that. I do expect both of them to try to go forward, if nothing else in here, Dan. And in a lot of ways, the pace, could really be the big determining factor in here, because it doesn't really feel like this race has to be run at a fast pace early. And several of the horses that I thought anyway were major contenders, they don't really have that much early speed.
A horse that doesn't have a ton of early speed is your morning line favorite, the number 1 Frontier Market, who was graded stakes placed for Chad Brown in 2019. Towards the end of 2019, he went through the auction ring. He was bought for $170,000, but he only started twice for his new connections last year. He had some trouble, I thought, in the Kilrow last time out, Mike, last on the rail, turning into the stretch, sort of in some traffic in between horses. He runs any of his last 6 or 7 figures, he's right there. But he's got to deal with the layoff.
He's got to deal with the layoff, and he's got to deal with a race that may not be run to suit him. He's a 1-run closer, this horse. So, if they go slow, as Timeform US seems to suggest they might, this horse could be way up against it here in his first start back since March. He's pretty good, Dan. I got to admit, he spent a lot of time in New York with Chad Brown. I was never a big fan of his. But even I recognized that he was really getting better at the end of 2018. He had a pretty good year going in 2019, even though he didn't get to run that often. There's only 2 starts last year. He ran fine. I don't necessarily agree with you that he had trouble in the Kilrow last time. I thought Rosario did everything he could do to get this horse a piece of it. He saved all the ground. He tried to rally inside. He just really couldn't get involved. Not that he ran poorly. In his last 2 races, I guess, make him a contender in here. Whether you want to bet him as the favorite, that's another question. I don't, but he could easily win.
Murad Khan and Salvatore Mundi, the 2 and the 3, both at 4-1 on the morning line. They exit a common race at Del Mar on November the 13th. We'll take a look at that race right now. The spotlight will be on Salvatore Mundi, the 6 on the outside. But note that Murad Khan in the gold, the number 1 with the red noseband, he's kind of stymied in behind horses, and he's going to have to dive to the inside late. He had some traffic.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll get to Salvatore Mundi in a minute. I thought Murad Khan, all in all, did, and he was blocked. I'm not going to argue with anybody who feels like it cost him in there. I didn't think that it cost him. I felt like this horse, up until that point, got a really good trip, and his rider, again, gave him every chance to get involved there. I just felt like at the end of the day, he wasn't quite good enough, but he might get a really good trip in this race, and I won't be surprised when he runs well.
And that's the key. Timeform US has him close to the pace. I would expect him sitting 2nd or 3rd. And this is a horse that does have some backability. He was graded stakes place sprinting early in 2020, but he's proven capable at this distance. As for Salvatore Mundi, he was in between horses, eased out into the stretch. We saw him kind of grinding it out for 3rd. He's run some consistent buyer speed figures in his last 3 races. It seems like ever since they've gelded him, he's improved a bit. I can understand anyone, though, that looks at that last race and says, blanket finish, not a strong group. This is a better bunch.
Yeah, well, you could look at it that way. I would disagree with you if you did look at it that way. I actually felt like this horse ran really well last time, Dan. And in a lot of ways, I felt like he was unlucky not to win there. The horse that won the race, it was a little bit of an upset, but that horse got a great ride. He made the early move to get involved on a slow pace, and he got the jump on Salvatore Mundi, and this horse just couldn't catch him at the end. But I thought he ran really well last time, and he's obviously improved quite a bit since Phil D'Amato took over.
Down from Golden Gate Fields is the 4 Lyme Bird. He's in pretty good form. He's at the board in his last 3 races over the Tapeta surface, including this performance going 6 furlongs on November the 1st. It was only a 4-horse field. He was last and widest, and he's only going to get beat a half length. That being said, this was 6 furlongs on the synth. He's now got to go a mile on the turf, and that career box record just stands out. He's 0 for 10 on turf.
Yeah, this probably isn't his surface. He runs fine in this race that we're watching, and he actually has run pretty well in each of his last 3 starts up north. I just didn't think he was good enough to beat this field.
Border Town, the number 5, is really interesting for me, for Dick Mandela. We haven't seen this horse in about, 3 months or so, but you could look at his last race. You look at his last race just on paper, and you're like, it's not a great performance as the favorite. But I think when you watch that race and you see he was wide, there really wasn't any pace on, and that race has come back live, you can give him a legitimate excuse. And all you have to do is go back to earlier in the spring, and he was running some fast races. He runs well fresh also.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually a very good point. He does run well fresh. I agree with your take on his last race. There is no pace for him there, which obviously is a concern for him in this race as well, because he may not get a setup, but he was wide all the way around the turn. I thought he ran fine last time. I also feel like, Dan, I think shorter might be better for this horse. I know that he wanted a mile and an eighth breaking his maiden. I think a mile is probably a much better distance for this horse. If he gets the right trip in here, I'm going to expect him to take a step forward.
King Theo, the number 6 in from Kentucky, where he just scored over the poly track at Turfway, going 6.5 furlongs. Similar situation to Lyme Bird coming down from Golden Gate. This is a horse that's done good work on synthetic. He's done okay work on dirt. He is winless on turf. He catches a tough bunch.
Yeah, he's another one, and I feel like his overall form is okay. I just feel like he's found a pretty tough spot here, and I didn't think he was good enough.
Kazan, the number 7, his last victory came for trainer Doug O'Neill for a $40,000 tag in July. He was claimed away from O'Neill after that race. He ran 3 times. It didn't work out. He's back with O'Neill. I'm not really sure it's the trainer change. I just wonder if he's a little bit in over his head in the 2 other than optional claiming ranks.
Yeah, that's how I feel the same way about him, I think. I mean, he's very consistent. It feels like he just shows up and runs the same race every time, but he's got several races in common with Border Town and Salvatore Mundi, and I just feel like they're both better than he is.
The 8, our Silver Oak, is 12-1 on the morning line, and he has some credentials for Mike Smith. This Calbred won the Snow Chief in 2019, then unfortunately went away for over a year, and I wonder if he's just running himself back into shape. Let's go back to his race 2 back at Golden Gate Fields on the turf on October the 23rd. It's an entry-level allowance race. He's on the outside. He's going to finish an okay 3rd. He backed up this performance with a win on dirt at Los Alamitos. He put up a career-best buyer that day. He seems versatile enough that dirt or turf, he'll be all right, and he's got enough tactical speed to stay close.
He does. It'll be interesting to see what he does, Dan. He's an interesting horse in here because even though he did, switch to dirt to win last time, he's got some pretty good turf form as well. I realized that there was a long layoff involved here. I'm a little disappointed in his 3 turf races since he's come back, especially the one we just watched. I didn't really see the excuse for him that day, and he's been, very short prices in all 3 of those races without winning.
The 9 award winner, 15-1 on the morning line, was graded stakes place as a 3-year-old in 2019. He did not run well against some pretty good optional claimers in 2020. However, his last race on dirt can be forgiven. 2 back, he was the beaten favorite in a key race at Churchill. He got wired that day. He was wide. It was a good field. The runner-up came back to win at Saratoga with a 94 buyer. The 3rd place horse came back to win and then was stakes placed at Ellis with a 99. But this horse's current form just doesn't excite me. Maybe the blinkers on will get him into the race. Maybe he'll be a surprise pace factor.
I mean, he used to have enough speed to really be a forward factor in this race. That was the one thing that I liked about this horse, who, at one point in his career looked like he could be okay. Man, he was bad at Churchill back in May. I know he got a layoff after that. Coming back on the dirt does not feel like a great vote of confidence to me in his next start, and he didn't run well that day either. I don't know what you're going to get from this horse, but he does have a race or 2 that makes him interesting.
Let's watch 5-star Lynch's last race. It was at Del Mar during the summer meet, at the very end of the summer meet. He just got loose in here. Really nice ride by Abel Cedillo, backing down the fractions, 49-2, 14-2, able to sprint on home. The 3rd place finisher came back to win the Grade 3 Tokyo City on dirt, a marathon race with a 95 buyer speed figure. The fact that he's been away 4 months after this win, though, is worrisome.
Yeah, that's not a great sign for him. Listen, the race feels like it could set up the right way for him. He's going to be forward in here. There's not a lot of speed in the race. Rosario will probably do the right thing and give this horse the right trip. I don't know. Even with that scenario, even if it plays out that way, Dan, I just don't like this horse that much. I think there are better horses in here.
It's truly an interesting race. It's a rider's race. It's a trip race. It's a pace race. We take a look at our top picks for this race. And Mike's going with the 5 Border Town, who has races, has run well fresh. And I think his last race is just better than it looks on paper. I think you'll get a decent price.
I'm hoping I do. I kind of like this horse, Dan. Again, I like him getting back to a mile too. I think that could help him. Trip's going to be very important to him. We'll see if he gets the right kind of a trip in this race. If he does, I think he could be right there.
I'm hoping the 3 Salvatore Mundi can be just a little bit closer to the pace than he usually is in most of his starts, but he's consistent enough. He's no superstar. It's not like he has this tremendous acceleration, but he's consistent enough that if you give him a trip, he should be around at the wire. I hope he drifts slightly off the 4-1 morning line. 3-1-2-7 for me, 5-3-1-9 for Mike. It's the Friday race of the day at Santa Anita with an approximate post time of 6:32. Best of luck.